Oh, yeah. Weekends. Oh, yeah. What's that? Yeah, I don't know what that is. All right, if we're ready to go. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting of the Hewlett Committee to order on this September 18th at 10:14 a.m. Would you mind calling the roll to establish the presence of a quorum, Cynthia?
Of course. Vice Chairperson Arenas
Here.
and Chairperson Abacoga.
Here.
Thank you. You have quorum.
I'm Margaret Abacoga, Chair of the committee, here with my Vice Chair, Supervisor Arenas. And at this time, if you could please turn off or mute all electronic devices, including cell phones, that may interrupt the meeting, I would appreciate it. First item is actually item 2 is public comment. And this item is reserved for persons who wish to address the committee on any matter within the subject matter jurisdiction of the committee that is not on this agenda. The law does not permit committee action or extended discussion on any item not on the agenda, except under special circumstances. Members of the public who wish to address the committee on a non-agendized item should request to speak at this time by giving a request to speak form to the deputy clerk if you are in the chambers, or by using the raise hand icon if attending virtually. Cynthia, are there any speakers?
We do have one speaker in chambers.
Great. So for one speaker, we're looking at 3 minutes.
Perfect.
Welcome.
Jim Stallman, please go ahead.
Jim Stallman. I live in Saratoga, and I have 3 things to share with you today. I want to thank County Roads for applying for and getting $1 million to do sidewalks out on Capitol Expressway. Along with that, I want to bring to your attention, if you didn't already know, the gold standard for dealing with these arterials was completed on El Camino Real, State Route 82, from 85 up to the county border. It's a beautiful job. And the ribbon cutting for that is October 6th at 1:30 in Palo Alto somewhere. You can look up details, but be sure to get out the word. It's a beautiful job. That actually costs the same amount as the 2 jobs on Lawrence and San Tomas that use Measure B, $30 million. That brings me to my second point. Somehow, even though the box is checked on the Complete Streets checklist for the San Tomas job to bridge the sidewalk gaps, there's still no sidewalks under Central Expressway along San Tomas. The commercial properties put in their sidewalks, but there's nothing that connects them underneath that Central Expressway. I don't know how that got missed. Although the checklist was filled out after the construction already started, I imagine there's some work underway to take care of that. If money is needed, I know of 3 sources where money is sitting right now, 3 different sources that can be tapped to do that job. Contact me and I'll fill in the details. The third thing was when I'm out there sitting waiting for a bus and I'm looking at cars going by, 15 to 25% of the cars are in violation of CVC 5200, and it would do the county well to call attention to that and get law enforcement, starting with the sheriff, to San Jose did it for a time, to go out there and cite these cars that are in violation. And MTC reports they have a $100 million loss every year due to this, and it's real money. It's money that would help our cities to maintain their own streets, help the county situation, and take care of our impoverished system of justice down the street that's always crying for money. I mean, they're the biggest benefactors of enforcing CVC 5200. The cities get money also from that. So please call for stepped up enforcement of that and do us all some good. Thank you.
And that concludes public comment.
Great, thank you so much. We'll move on to item 3, which is the approval of the consent calendar and any changes to the committee agenda. Supervisor Arenas, do you have any questions or comments on consent item? May I ask for a motion?
Sure, but I thought if we don't have any changes, do we really need a motion?
Elizabeth Pianka, Assistant County Counsel, yes, because you're approving the items that are falling underneath the consent
Okay.
calendar.
Got it. Okay. Then, motion to approve.
Thank you. I'll second that. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on the consent?
We currently have no requests to speak.
Great, thank you. I'll close public comment, and please, if you could take a roll call vote, please, Cynthia.
Vice Chairperson Arenas
Yes.
and Chairperson Nabakoga.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the regular agenda, our first item is item 4 is to receive a report from the Department of Planning and Development relating to the sixth cycle housing element update, structural challenges to development of county assigned housing units, and state legislation that may mitigate potential adverse outcomes. And I believe we have a presentation. We'll start with Ms. Gallegos.
Good morning, Sylvia Gallegos, Deputy County Executive, and I do have our colleague David Campos, Deputy County Executive over Intergovernmental Relations here as well, and obviously the Director, Ms. Anciano. The purpose of this report is to present to you the status of the implementation to date with respect to the housing element update, but also, for your purpose, identify what we describe as structural challenges from the very outset. And our effort is, to the greatest extent possible, mitigate risk, identify opportunities, and we are seeking opportunities to help provide relief to the county. So let me start with the structural risks that we face. From the very outset, and this goes back to 2020, when our local council of governments, ABAG, gave us our RENA assignment, we were disadvantaged. And we were so because we represent 99% of our land is rural, and just 1% of our land is in the urban areas where you have access to municipal services. And those areas are subject to annexation to adjoining cities when development occurs, and that's pursuant to policies that date back 50 years, because we want to promote compact, efficient development where you have access to water, wastewater, stormwater, and the full complement of services. So in 2020, ABAG set forth for its baseline in terms of establishing its methodology, the total population in 2050. And so for the county, what it meant was that our regional housing need allocation increased by over 1,000%. And I say this because by comparison, the average by the 9 counties in the Bay Area and the 101 cities is about 135%. So that was an extraordinary increase. From the outset, we appealed to ABAG based on our unusual circumstances. We were joined by the city of San Jose at the time, and we were denied. What ABAG stated to us was that relief could come in the form of transfer agreements, moving our allocation from the county to the city. But in practice, that isn't an effective approach. Cities are disincentivized to take on our RENA obligation because there's a window of time, 90 days, after an annexation by which you can execute a transfer agreement. For the cities, they're disadvantaged because actual credit for building occurs at the time when building permits are issued, and very likely outside that 90-day window. So you can imagine that cities are reluctant to bet on some prospect, because as you know, you can get land use entitlement, but that doesn't necessarily mean that a developer will go to construction based on a variety of circumstances. So the fallback to this circumstance, if a city and a county cannot reach an agreement on transfer, is that the jurisdictions can make an appeal to ABAG to make the determination. And actually, in our circumstance, we have done so. There's a property on East San Jose, 125 Kirk Avenue, where the city and the county could not reach agreement in terms of the transfer of credit. We understand that the developer is proposing to build 18 units. In our housing element update, we identified that as a site and did the environmental analysis and concluded that it could support up to 12. So 10 market rate and 2 affordable based on our inclusionary housing ordinance. We couldn't reach agreement, and so we made a petition, if you will, to ABAG, and recently we learned that unlike what we would have expected, that we would have been awarded 12 units credit. We planned in good faith, and we know from the developer that they're likely to build up to 18. What we learned from ABAG is they're only going to give us credit for 2 units. 2 units. And that is known by the cities. And so you can imagine that there is no incentive for cities to execute these agreements. And we are not backstopped by ABAG because we now know, and this applies to other unincorporated lands that we have identified in our housing inventory. The way I describe it is we'll get pennies on the dollar. So this is a very difficult set of circumstances for the county. Our obligation, of course, is to continue to make good faith efforts to address this. And so, in fact, the planning department is in the process of engaging a consultant where we're now going to have to identify other parcels. And because of these unique set of circumstances, we're frankly going to have to look at rural parcels that are adjacent to cities because that is the only way that we can be assured that we would get credit. So we're doing this work, and now we want to turn the presentation over to the director because we are also examining not only potential bills that are that have been enrolled and possibly signed by the governor, but also other potential legislative solutions that may provide us relief. So with that, Director Anciano.
Thank you. Jacqueline Anciano, Director of Planning and Development. We have recommended several legislative proposals to our legislative team led by David Campos. They're under consideration. We just recently had to modify one of those proposals. So Supervisor Arenas, I was going to send you our proposals, but we had to make some structural changes to them. And we'll speak to that today. They're still under review. They haven't moved forward yet. The legislative team is looking at the county as a whole, not just the planning division, but we did submit relative to the RENA cycle annexation, and I believe there's one more. I believe there were 3. If you would.
Sure. Lisa McKyle, Deputy Director over Planning Services. We submitted through our IGR team one specific proposal related to the housing element cycle. We tried to look at.
Don't go into detail,
Okay.
if you will. Just
Sure.
speak to the 3: the
Yes.
RENA cycle, the methodology, and annexation. And what was the third one?
Yes, compliance with our housing element programs with the RENA cycle. During the 6th cycle, some changes to the RENA process and ABAG transfer process, and then also another legislative amendment related to fees for builders' remedy applications.
The fees. Thank you. So these are only in proposal phase, just to the legislative team to review on behalf of the county as a whole. They haven't moved out of that team. I'll turn the presentation over to the Deputy Director, Lisa McKyle, who will speak to where we are relative to and report back on the housing element status and the legislative bills that we did submit, or proposals, not bills, the legislative proposals for consideration that were submitted. And David Campos is also with us to speak to the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa McKyle again, Deputy Director. In the staff report, there were some existing bills that were identified. One was Assembly Bill 650. The county supported this particular bill that is now in front of the governor for signature. Most notable in this particular Assembly bill is a shift in some timing that ABAG and HCD have to establish the RENA count, as well as requiring that HCD in the next round be more specific and explicit in its requests upon a jurisdiction to make their amendments in a housing element. So our county found this to be very important. In the last cycle, we desired to have more specificity from HCD, and so we supported this particular bill. Assembly Bill 1275 is, again, extending some timelines with the housing element to better align RENA assignments. We supported this, and it's in front of the governor for signature. And Senate Bill 786 would make changes when local governments are considered to have compliant housing elements, specifically through challenging the validity of a housing element for consistency with the state law. And so that is also in front of the governor for signature. With regard to our proposed amendments that we're suggesting through the IGR team, we have, the easiest one to describe is for fees associated with builders' remedy applications. Under the current law, the county is frozen to charge fees that were in place when a developer submitted their preliminary application. And so, as we're aware, the county has increased many of its fees for development applications, and so rather than that amount of processing being borne by the general public, the county is proposing to make sure that that cost is transferred to the developer. We'll see how that goes. With regard to the housing element cycle, we looked at extending timelines to comply with housing elements. In discussing this a little further, in combination with our county council, there's some concerns due to how the assignment of the RENA allocation is created. So, they look at forecasting within a period of time how many units would be built. So if we extend that time frame, there's potential that it could increase or have a negative effect on the number of units that we're responsible for. So we looked at a different alternative. Again, this is just proposed now, and it can change. What we're proposing instead is if a jurisdiction is not complying or not on the path to be in compliance, that the state allows as a mandate that a jurisdiction can look at other alternatives, such as the number of units constructed for ADUs, JDUs, and we call them SB9 units, but they're actually called homeowner and community efficiency units. So our county does have quite a few of those under construction, and so we'd like to utilize those for very low and low-income housing credits. Next, we looked at a suite of amendments that are all interrelated when you look at the RENA process and also the ABAG process for transfers, as Sylvia Gallegos noted. The first one, and I'm going to put these in an order of importance. The first one that's most immediate would be consideration from ABAG of alternative methodologies. So ABAG believes that they are required to apply the methodology that they approved several years back, and that's the only methodology they can approve, that they cannot consider the argument from one jurisdiction and another jurisdiction. So what we're proposing is an amendment that allows the Council of Governments to consider alternative methodologies. We're pushing for them to consider when a jurisdiction has a certified housing element that is backed by a certified environmental impact report and the associated zoning, that be considered in the transfer process. Second and third, these two are a little bit more aligned. When when ABAG, so the local COG, is going through the process of establishing RENA, requiring that the law directs them to consider the availability of urban services. So one of the biggest challenges the county has is we don't provide services such as water and sewer, and it doesn't matter whether you're in the rural area or the urban area for our county. And so that creates a catch-22 for us. And so we're requesting that laws be considered that require ABAG during the RENA process to not, to take into consideration the lack of services when they're assigning units. Additionally, urban islands. So if you have urban islands that are surrounded within a local jurisdiction, like a city, for example, we have several within the city of San Jose, that those assignments go to that respective city. So those two items go together. They're a bit more hand in hand. Next, we would look at planned or automatic RENA transfers. So in our circumstance, we have these urban islands that are surrounded, and we don't have the ability to participate in the annexation process. So the city of San Jose can just annex a property, and we cannot participate in that process. So again, we're back in that catch-22 spot. And so in those instances where the county cannot participate, and we're stuck against this, the transfer process that Ms. Gallegos noted, that there's an automatic transfer that occurs there. And lastly, additional time for transfer agreements. So the county found in this process, while we were making good efforts on the county side and conversations were occurring with the city, we felt like we needed a little bit more time, but the law just didn't allow that. And so while we did get an extension, it still continued to not be enough time where more conversation could have been benefited. And that concludes my presentation. Did I talk about housing element process already, where we're at? No, does not conclude my presentation, sorry. Housing, with regard to our existing housing element, we have quite a few programs, several of which are within the Planning and Development Department, and another compilation of them are with Office of Supportive Housing. There's in the hundreds of implementation measures within those programs. So as Ms. Gallegos noted, and through the support of the director as well, we're looking at obtaining support from consultants to assist with the department's programs. A lot of these programs have to do not only with outreach, but with actual code amendments and looking through, our complex system of ordinances. And so we are looking for assistance in that capacity, as well as having to look at our sites and inventory in our housing element, and likely needing to do an additional assessment of our housing element and amendment if these types of laws are not put into place. Now it concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. I'm going to ask for public comment first. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on this item?
If I may, through the chair,
I'm
I
sorry.
wanted to
Yes,
just
please,
provide
Mr.
just a
Campos.
brief, presentation on sort of the process that IGR is following as
please.
we're looking at, if that's helpful through the chair.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, David Campos, Deputy County Executive. And I oversee the intergovernmental relations, among other functions here in the county. And first, we want to say thank you to our planning department for working closely with us on all of the bills that you mentioned, where we got the feedback and input from the department. We took a position to support those pieces of legislation. And also thank you to the members of the board of this committee for meeting with us to talk about legislative priorities. And as you know, the way that we do our process, we have received feedback from all departments with bill ideas, and we'll receive those by August 22nd, and we appreciate the work that went into that. What we're doing right now is going through all of those bill ideas, including the ones that were mentioned by planning, to understand how the ideas work and figure out priorities relative to those ideas. But one of the things that is clear, and I just want to make sure that we're, publicly talking about this, we know that something has to be done on the housing element, that the current situation is untenable. What we're doing with the proposals that were submitted is not only reviewing them closely with county council, but also having conversations with different players in Sacramento, in the region, and in the state to understand what might be viable and what is the best approach in terms of changing the challenges that we're facing. And that's the process that we're going through right now, and we will then, once we complete that analysis, provide our best thinking to the county executive so that we can then bring a package of bill suggestions to the board. By the time we bring those to the board, we will have had those conversations. I don't need to tell you, both of you, because of your involvement in this issue, that anytime you propose something around RHNA, the housing element, there are a lot of players involved in Sacramento. And so making sure that you understand the lay of the land relative to those issues and those ideas is important, which is what we're going through right now. And we will, give you our best thinking. And the proposal or proposals that we bring to you will be those that we think make the most sense in terms of making the change that is needed, but also in terms of the viability. And so that's where we are in the process. And again, appreciate the input that we received from the department. And we are talking to our team, including our representatives in Sacramento, to understand what might be viable. And one thing that I would note is that right now, the landscape in Sacramento is shifting. So just in the housing front, I'll give you an example. We have benefited from the fact that Aisha Wahab is the chair of the Senate Housing Committee. We hope that continues. But we know, for instance, that there will be a change in leadership in the state Senate. The Senate Pro Tem, Monique Limon, will be taking over November 17th. That may change committee assignments, and that's part of the consideration and analysis that we go through. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for that presentation. Very helpful. So now I'll see if there's any public comment on this item.
We have no request to speak.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Arenas, do you have any questions or comments on this item?
I can go second if you do, Chair.
Thank you. I do, yes, have a few questions and then obviously comments, but I wanted to better understand the issue of the transfer of the parcels and then the credits. So I was reading in the staff report and just wanted to clarify, I read this correctly. So at this time, I'll pick San Jose because there's a lot of similar or cross boundaries, shared boundaries. But if the city wanted to annex a parcel, is it that they can do that automatically without having to go through LAFCO?
Simply put, yes.
Oh, so what is the criteria then for a parcel or property to be annexed in? I was trying to go back to my LAFCO days, but I just remember that you had to usually go through LAFCO to have that happen.
Historically, there have been efforts to have express annexation, and you may have, in your prior capacity, be acquainted with it. In conversations with the San Jose Planning and Development Director, their position is that they would only proceed with annexation when a developer is interested in developing a site. And so that's why 125 Kurt Avenue was annexed. And we found out not from the city, but through LAFCO notification to us. And so we had a very brief window to endeavor to negotiate a transfer agreement in that particular case.
So it used to be that in order to develop, you had to have that annexation happen. Is that still the case? Okay. But you're saying that the city would only annex if they.
The city's
wanted to.
made its position clear to us that it's not, they do not have an interest in annexing parcels that exist in their urban service area
If they're not. gonna be
proactively, only under the circumstance when it's subject to development.
Okay. And then do we, as a county, then, is the county, I remember, we were trying to get rid of all the islands, but is that still the case that we want to encourage as much annexation as possible?
It is our policy, and we absolutely do encourage that. And it is the policy not only of the county, but the 15 cities in LAFCO.
Okay. And then I just wanted to go, your mention about the credits of the units. So the example you gave was the project that had 12, it's allowed to do 18, but we're only going to get credit for 2. And why is that the case?
We, staff and council actually it was staff, had a meeting with ABAG to understand how they made the determination to allocate 2. What I'll say, because it was a long conversation, is that, and it goes back to their original methodology establishing that the units they distribute to parcels will be based on their assumption of households in 2050, which is 4 million. That the way it was described to us is that 18 units is such a small input when you're distributing 4 million households through parcels throughout the Bay Area, that the output is small. And so, and we tried to explore that further because it's not very clear to us.
Right.
And it seemed non-intuitive. So the way they described it is that when they were delegated authority by the ABAG board to develop this methodology in these cases where 2 jurisdictions don't reach agreement, we were the first case for this, 125 Kurt, and so they had to develop a process. The way it's described to us is they have this methodology, it's in a computer, they run a script, and the output is this number. And that's the best I can provide an explanation to you. I'll say that it's still cryptic to us,
Okay.
and frankly, very disappointing.
Okay, thank you. So then, just some comments, and I very much appreciate the presentation, the proposal. I do think, based on just my experience with the housing elements, there's just a lot of flaws, frankly, to the state, the process, and I think, we all experienced a lot of turmoil, especially this round. And, I don't know the possibility, and this is, Mr. Campos, I know your area of the appetite for reform, but, just the reality, right, in 2031, I don't think any jurisdiction's going to have been, reach their housing element goals. So it's like, when do we just, admit to that reality and then try to make this process more realistic? I think in the end, with the housing elements, what the documents that have been produced are actually pretty well thought through now. So as I've shared with many of you, I think number one, the issue is, just giving cities and jurisdictions time to actually implement the elements, and that's the real challenge. Is we've spent so much time developing them, we now have very little time to, get them to see fruition in them. So I appreciate there was a comment about how that makes it harder because of the Plan Bay. I'm assuming it's Plan Bay Area 2050 numbers, and us having to maybe have to build more if we project out longer. But there's some talk too at the commission, MTC commission, about Plan Bay Area 2050 plus, and how COVID was not calculated into that, and some of those numbers are just not going to happen. The actual growth projections are not very we're not on target. So when do we, when do we really revisit that and relook at what is more realistic? So there's that whole process that I think needs to be done. But I do appreciate the ideas for legislative fixes and, frankly, support all of them. I understand that we have to pick and choose based on how many, but although I guess my question is, is there really a limit to how many we request? I know it's more a question of viability and who would be willing to sponsor the bills, but is there usually like a number that we're targeting?
If I may, through the chair, Chair Avakoga, there is no limit, and that really is ultimately up to the board to decide. I think that if you look at our history in the last 2-3 years, we have submitted or co-sponsored anywhere from 4 to 8 legislative proposals. Some of it also depends on what else is happening. Two things that there are a couple of things that are also big priorities for the county this coming year, with the first one being funding and the issues coming out of HR 1, and of course trying to get the state to do the right thing on those issues is a critical piece of our work. But this will also be another priority as we examine, and so when we come to the board, we will have different proposals, different options, and the main thing that I would say about this issue as we're looking at this, and just to have to be honest about what could happen in Sacramento, I think that anything involving RENA, housing element, that those issues require a strategy that involves other jurisdictions. I don't believe that Santa Clara County, as active and as present as we are in Sacramento, that we will be able to do that on our own. And that's actually one thing that I would pose to both members of the board and this committee to, we appreciate any insight or any input in terms of your engagement with other jurisdictions where you think there might be some commonality, between us and them, because I think that having more than one county saying to Sacramento this change is needed would be very powerful. There is actually within the state legislature a Bay Area caucus that is about 30 plus members of all of the Bay Area members of the state Senate and the Assembly. And they meet on a regular basis, and so our thinking would be that whatever proposal or proposals we put forward in this space, that we would try to get the Bay Area caucus to make it a priority, because having them advance something like this would be really helpful. Senator Becker, who is one of our representatives, is the current chair of that caucus, which is helpful. So, but any ideas or thoughts that you have in terms of jurisdictions in the 9-county Bay Area that would be supportive of what we come up with, we appreciate that input, and we are having those conversations with those jurisdictions already.
Yes, and that was my thought, was when is the Association of Counties, if their conversation across counties on some of these county-specific challenges, mainly the transfer of credits. But in regards to like the housing cycle and the RENA numbers and all of that, I think many cities have shared their consternation as well. And so that was my thought was that we reach out to our cities within our county to start to see if we can build a coalition. And I know that certain cities have been very vocal, and they may already be in the process of asking or proposing legislation to on their own that maybe we could just add our support to. So that would be what I would request that we look into. But certainly in terms of, the housing element, I know Senator Becker has been very active and very responsive, and so that was my thought too, is that perhaps we could engage with his office at some point to get a better understanding of what he thinks might be possible. So.
Well, he's been very supportive of our bills, but so far of the various bills that we have authored, he hasn't authored any of them. So this
Yes.
presents an opportunity for him to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
So, yes, so those were my questions and just, thoughts on this. I'm happy to take this offline and work with staff more on these items. So is the plan to look through the different proposals for legislation, then come back with the top few that you would recommend to the board to move forward as?
I think our plan, and by the way, we are happy to continue to brief you as we're working through these ideas. The goal is to come back to the board with a set of proposals in November for you to vote on.
Okay.
But we will be in conversation before, as we're analyzing. And the reason why we're coming back to you in November is because the legislative proposals have to be submitted early
Yes.
February. And between November, December, and January, which, takes out a lot of December because of the holidays, we have to find an author for the
Yes.
bill. And then we have to talk to people in Sacramento about, the different issues involving the specific bill. So we need a couple of months to be able to do that so that, when we submit it, the bill is in good shape.
Okay.
So a lot of activity happening very quickly.
Great, thank you. And then internal process, I know we have the planning department, but they should funnel their thoughts to you.
They already have
Okay.
supervisor.
So we should go to you for follow-up.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, absolutely. If that
Great.
works. And we're happy to have any individual conversation, but again, we will keep you apprised. And, we know from not only what they're saying, but also from our meetings with the individual supervisors that this is a big issue, big priority across the board for this board.
And then it sounds like there are some things that might be like ABAG, MTC level potential fixes. So I'm hoping staff, you can delineate those, and then those we can take, to our respective bodies to see if we can make some changes.
One of the things that we do in our review, if I may, through the chair, is that there are sometimes issues that are identified that maybe on the face look like legislation, but in fact may be a regulation. So maybe it's a letter, maybe it's advocating with the department, maybe it is an MTC issue, And so that's what we're trying to do with all of these proposals. And it's a close conversation with county council to understand what could be done, without necessarily going the route of legislation. And it's not just one strategy, it may be multiple strategies that we do, MTC, that we do regulations, that we do legislation, because there are so many issues involved.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Supervisor Arenas, did you have any?
I sure do. Okay, so let me just clarify the process, because I know that there's a process that we have in order to address some of the legislative or recommendations for legislative fixes. And so that is that the directors produce recommendations, they come to you, you vet them, then you send them to our county executive or county council at the same time, not sure, and then they vet them?
No, so Supervisor, the process is first we get information from all of the departments. So we have a form that they fill out. We also meet with each office of the Board of Supervisors. I think we met September 5th with your office, and we've met with every office to identify what those priorities are. As we get the proposals and we're in the process of reviewing them, we're actually working with county council. They have reviewed all of them, but we want to have them review the totality to see, kind of what makes sense, if there are any legal issues. Once we have the proposals that we think should go forward to the county executive, we will make sure to provide that information to each board office, especially because in the conversations we had, you identified some priority areas. So for instance, we know that this is RENA allocation is a priority for you. So we'll make sure that we brief you on where that is so that you have a sense of what we're looking at and to see if there's something else that we should look at, And then we will go to the county executive to have him direct us on sort of what the bill package should be. And then that will come to the board sometime in November. But our hope is to make sure that we keep you informed through that process as we're going through that analysis.
Okay. So, and when you come back in November, these recommendations will be, you said you'll speak to legislators, you'll try to work through issues that have come up. And then by the time they come to us in November, it's a very tight timeline
Right.
for any input, correct?
Yes, it
Okay.
is, which is why we wanted to meet with supervisors before the proposals came in, and we want to meet with you after we're reviewing them, before we come to the board, so that we get your input throughout. And of
Okay.
course, if you think that there's anything else that, where you want to have more say, we're happy to follow whatever process you have in place.
What I have an issue with is that you'll produce policy, yet I'm elected to produce policy. I'm a policymaker. And I will be left out until the very end. And you'll get my feedback, but I'm not interested in giving you feedback. I'm interested in developing policy with you. So we need to take a look at the process and figure out how do we, in a very strategic and intentional way, give that feedback. Because we've been talking about this, and this issue directly impacts my district. And whether we meet our arena goals, they'll be from my district through the Mount Pleasant Hillside Hills Golf Course site. And if that doesn't work, you'll look at the other areas in my district south. Yet you're going to get my feedback about the fixes that you've already discussed with legislators in November. No, wait a minute. I have been discussing this with you, Sylvia. This is an issue that creates a number of headaches for me, not only because of what it represents in my district, but because of some of the games that get played through the city of San Jose around this. I'm happy to take this offline and discuss it, but I am not happy, and as you can tell, I'm not happy to have things baked. Like the housing element, when it came in, it was baked. And it was one of the very few times that I allowed something to move forward because I didn't want to compromise it in terms of timeline. But I am not here to give you a rubber stamp. I'm here as a collaborator and as a partner, and I am a policymaker. And so the process needs to recognize that and honor that role. And so far, it has not. And so unless we switch that around, you won't get that from me right now. So the direction to me is for you to figure out how this process comes back to the board and honors the board's role as policymakers. And so I'm asking you, Sylvia, to help figure this piece out, because this has been, you've been shepherding this process for a really long time. And I'm just learning now about some of the recommendations that you all have identified and some of the edits that you would make, or some of the your own recommendations for the legislative amendments. Yet, this is the first time I'm hearing about it. So either we produce together and we're much stronger for it, or I'm going to continue to reiterate this issue. So we need to find a fix for the process, because the process to me is broken and leaves me out of it.
Sylvia Gallegos, Deputy County Executive. We hear you loudly and clearly. It's regrettable that the housing element update timing was very close to your new service on the board. And I understood very clearly at the time that had there been more time in the development, because, we were trying to submit it as quickly as possible, as you know, because we were trying to close the door on builder's remedies applications. So we understood at the time that this wasn't something necessarily that you would have supported, but you did so, and we appreciated it then, and we appreciate it now. We hope that this would be a useful public forum to discuss these initial ideas. We have a different timeline within internally in terms of submitting prospective bill proposals, and the intent was to have this conversation at a prior Hewlett meeting, but we ran out of time, and so we were compressed. I know that you have both my commitment and my colleague, Mr. Campos's commitment to involve you in every step of the process so that there is in no way a sense that you're simply reacting. And we do want to, and I think I've said this before, in your role, find some opportunities at ABAG to, we would love to see if there's an opportunity to get a change so that decisions by ABAG staff can be appealed to the ABAG board. That was denied at the time when they came up with the process to make determinations between jurisdictions. We would support and would, more than support, we would really welcome your ability to make changes at that level. And we do have some proposals that we're working on. I have a draft letter as well that I wanted to share with you. And so I just wanted to sort of underscore our commitment to work with you at every step.
Yet I am on ABAG, and I am the chair of LAFCO. And I think you already know that for the very first time, LAFCO has written down their policies in a way that is transparent and clear to everyone so that applicants are clear about why they're getting an approval or not. Because I have a real problem with policies being interpreted by people and not having a clear definition of what we mean, or LAFCO means, or ABAG means, or whomever the body that oversees it, what is underutilized, right? What is underutilized land? That's something basic, but the applicant might have a different definition than we might. And it might use a different, and we might use that criteria to decide that this doesn't fit. So, and the reason I say this is because you already know this about LAFCO and my work in LAFCO, and how I feel about policies. I think it's not the first time you hear about this, yet in neither of those roles am I pulled in. Yet you have recommendations that I can give you feedback on. So I'm not going to allow for this report to go to the board without having this straightened out in terms of the process. When were you thinking about taking this report, cross-referencing it to the board?
The staff typically doesn't submit the reports to the board, but it may be referenced in the committee chair's report out to the board, which is usually a consent item.
Okay, then I'll need for you to, I'm not necessarily in support of the recommendations, because I don't know, I haven't vetted them. I don't know about them. This is the first time I'm hearing about them, and I'm not going to accept them simply because you have them as a recommendation. How do I know that's what it is? You know, I have a process for figuring out policy, and that's talking to stakeholders, figuring out what those needs are, figuring out what the limitations in terms of rules are, There's a whole process for it, and I can't, in a committee, say, you've been working on this for how long? Without checking in terms of what those steps have been. So, Chair, it's up to you to decide, but I'm not going to. If you have a motion to approve, I will not approve it. So you can provide some level of direction at this point, but at this point, I would like to say that I'm not going to approve the report, and I'm going to ask you to meet with me offline to discuss the recommendations that you have put forward. And that'll be the motion that I have.
Yes.
If I may, Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Just want to say, in terms of the legislative process that we've outlined, we are happy to add whatever other step any supervisor wants to have. We are in the process of reviewing the proposals. If you want us to come back to the board in any capacity, whether it's a committee or individual members, to talk about the specific proposals that we're reviewing, we're happy to do that.
Yes.
We're not trying to, in any way, make policy. That's your job. We're trying to provide you our best thinking. When we are talking about proposals to legislators, we're talking about proposals. We're saying these are ideas. What do you think is the viability, so that we can give that guidance to the board, but they're the ones who decide. So Supervisor, if you want to have additional meetings where we present, where we have an open discussion, we're happy to do that. We will follow whatever guidance you give us on that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I thank you. I agree. I was going to suggest that maybe if we could have another round of, staff meeting with us, 'cause from the surface and what I've read, these sound fine, but again, I would like to dig a little deeper as well to figure out which ones should be our priorities. Also, I know when you first came to us, it was a question of, well, do you have any thoughts? And frankly, sometimes for me, it's helpful to have prompts. And I don't think we really have had the opportunity to vet these or to dig deeper into these. And I know this is maybe supposed to be the time to do it, but this is actually pretty substantial that I think it's going to take more time than an hour and a half meeting. So that's would be my request as well, is that we have staff come back to each of us to go through, to hear whatever other recommendations we might come up with. I think we could really benefit from your expertise, Supervisor NNS, and then we can, at our next meeting, come back with hopefully a more finalized
We would-
product. So that would be my suggestion. I did want to say or ask that, I obviously wasn't here, but the premise and my question is, how did the county get so behind on the housing element? We were the last entity to get approved, out I know this is even deeper, but how do we make sure next time around that we're out of the gates right away, and that we're as close to meeting these deadlines as possible? Where is that conversation taking place, and is that where's the prioritization of housing development issues in our
So before the director responds to the specific question about the timing of our development of the housing element update, I want to underscore the comment that Mr. Campos made. This really is at the beginning of the process. As you know, the legislative session ended on Saturday. And so I want to emphasize that this really was our first engagement, and just to get initial reactions, and that absolutely it has been our intent and is our intent to continue that conversation with all of you, because we know that this is a very significant priority for the board. So,
Okay.
Ms. Anciano.
So, Jacqueline Anciano, Director of Planning and Development. We were working diligently on our housing element for several years. We were working with the city of San Jose. We thought we had a transfer agreement. We were working with the CEO's office. There were some challenges within solidifying that, and it did not move forward. We had to pivot, and we had to go back and look at other sites. There was an action that was taken at the city of San Jose that allowed the county to then look at other sites that before we were not included in our housing element. And once we did that, we had to analyze those sites. So we had to pivot very quickly, and that pivot is what put us in a situation where we were then pressed. But we were successful in getting our housing element certified. That was not our plan. We had a different plan and a different outcome,
Okay.
and it didn't come to be.
Realize. Okay, so lessons learned and for next time. But yeah, we don't have to take a motion, so I'll say let's not move this item, and we can continue it to our next meeting. But in the meantime, if you could please meet with both of us, that would be great. Is that all right with you, Supervisor?
That's fine.
Right, good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate all the work. This is, ongoing, ongoing challenges. So we'll move on to item 5, which is to receive a semi-annual report from the Roads and Airports Department relating to Homestead Road Safe Routes to School project, and I believe that's Mr. Harry Freitas.
Thank you, committee, members of the chair. Good morning. We're pleased to present this report about the status of the Homestead Road Safe Routes to School project. Let me just queue up this presentation. I have just a few slides. This will be very brief. So the Homestead Road Safe Routes to School project, I have a map of it here. It's Homestead Road parallel to Route 280, connecting Foothill Expressway on one side, and this is I was going to say De Anza Boulevard, but this is the map of the route. Just to give you background, the project improves Homestead Road in the cities of Sunnyvale, Cupertino, and Los Altos, and there's a number of schools in the area, and access is not to the standard that we would like. This project would ultimately improve access through those 3 cities. The county initiated the project and funded the feasibility study. We also did alternatives analysis and worked with the various cities. We gained consensus on the preferred analysis, the alternative. In that process, the county actually funded $500,000 towards project initiation. That was funded from the road fund and the general fund. The VTA at that point assumed the role of project lead. They obtained a grant from the Measure B program for $1 million, and they progressed the design to 35%. The current status of the project is that the 35% design has been complete, but in order to progress the project to really a construction state, the VTA is currently seeking grant funding for the remainder of the design and environmental clearance that would be necessary to ultimately get a project to bid out through the State Transportation Improvement Program, commonly known as the STIP. That's what the VTA is doing right now. They're also looking for the local match that would be necessary to fund the project, and they're seeking funding from the cities of Cupertino, Los Altos, and Sunnyvale. In addition to the activities that the VTA is pursuing, our own county IGR staff is also working through our state and federal representatives to seek funding from various other funding sources. So that concludes our presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions. I note that David Campos with IGR is here.
Yes.
They contributed to the preparation of the report. Thank you.
Thank you. If I may,
Yes,
through the
please.
chair, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, David Campos, Deputy County Executive. We did submit a request for a community project for this item with Congressman Liccardo. Unfortunately, this is not one of the items that he moved forward. But we do note that there was a request by the city of Sunnyvale to Congressman Khanna that included $2 million for the project as part of the House Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Appropriations Bill. And so now that's going through the federal process. And as you know, it's not clear what's going to happen in Washington, D.C. Historically, Congress has not passed a budget before the end of the fiscal year, which is September 30th. We don't expect that to happen this time either. There was a continuing resolution that happened last time that extended government funding through November of 21st. But there are disagreements between the two political parties in the Congress that may keep this from moving forward. So we're watching and hoping that this goes through. It's not clear how the Republican House will treat these kinds of requests by members like Member Khanna. But we're watching it, and just know that we're doing everything we can to make sure that we get the $2 million or any other funding that might be available.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. Any public comment on this item?
We have no request to speak.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Arenas, do you have any questions or comments?
Thank you.
I
Happy
just-
to make a motion. Oh, I'm sorry.
You please.
Oh, I'll make a motion to approve.
Great.
I'm sorry, did you finish with your comments? I
I
apologize.
was just going to second that.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you,
Here we go.
yes. And I just wanted to say thank you to our staff for your work on this. We were able to get a meeting together with the 3 cities, although none of them ended up showing up to the meeting, and VTA to get a sense of where this project is and how we could work together. And I know that our office followed up with each of the cities to ask for their consideration of a local match piece. So we're waiting to hear back from the cities on that. The downside, the upside was VTA came up with the extra 1.9 million. The downside is that the estimate for the cost of the next phase of design is has increased by $500,000 from the last time we talked about it. So that's the challenge I see with all of these projects, is the longer it takes, the more expensive it gets. So for me, time is of the essence, and so I'm hoping that the cities will be able to help by doing the match and moving the process along. So, but just want to thank, again, our staff for all the work that you've been putting into this, and we'll keep at it. Thank you. We'll go on to now item number 6, which is
Apologies, did you want to do roll call for the motion and
Oh,
second?
I'm sorry,
No
yes.
worries.
May roll call, please.
Yeah. Vice Chairperson Arenas
Yes.
and Chairperson Nabokova?
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries.
Thank you. We will now go on to item 6, which is the annual report from the Consumer and Environmental Protection Agency relating to 2024 weights and measures operational activities. And is that Mr. Edgar?
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Vice Chair. Edgar Nolasco, your Director for the Consumer and Environmental Protection Agency. Item 6 is something new for us. We wanted to take the opportunity to highlight what our weights and measures team does operationally as their work to protect the community's economic health by ensuring accuracy in how goods are weighed and measured and sold. As you know, when scales and pumps are off even slightly, working families pay the price, often without knowing. Our hardworking team ensures that doesn't happen. I also wanted to give a warm welcome and introduction to our new Ag Commissioner, Weights and Sealers Measure, Priscilla Yini, who has decades of experience. She's been on the job 2 weeks and joins us most recently from Solano County. And I just wanted to thank my appreciation to Deputy County Executive Gallegos in helping us with these recruitment efforts. It wasn't an easy effort, but thanks to her experience and help, we were able to bring Ms. Yini to the county. And also joining us today is Bu Tai, our SEPA Admin Services Director, and our Deputy Ag Commissioner, Santoy.
Good morning, Chair Abikoga and Vice Chair Aranez, Bu Tai, Administrative Services Manager. Today, I actually get to pass the baton to our Ag Commissioner to do the presentation. I'm happy to be her sidekick and drive the presentation today.
Good morning. Today I'm going to talk to you about a little bit about our weights and measures programs that are under the SEPA Agricultural Weights and Measures Division. Weights and measures, our weights and measures program ensures consumer protection, to promote equity in the marketplace, and to provide consumer protection to transactions that occur based on weight, count, or measure. We do this through the testing and inspection of weighing and measuring devices. We do this also with point-of-sale systems, which many of us mostly know as price verification scanners. That's when you go to like Target or some kind of a store and you buy, say, a pack of gum, and they scan it at the cash register, and a price comes up, and that's the price that you're charged for that commodity. We inspect these devices based on laws and regulations that have standards for these type of devices. Our Weights and Measures program also conducts other types of inspections and audits. We do price verification audits, quantity control audits for packaged commodities, and we also regulate the quality and labeling of petroleum products. Next slide, please. The Weights and Measures Division is comprised of 29 staff members, including myself, the Agricultural Commissioner Sealer, 4 Deputy Agricultural Commissioners, and 24 Biologist Standard Specialist Inspectors. The work distribution for our division in fiscal year 24-25 was 40% weights and measures work and 60% agricultural program work. Commercial weighing and measuring devices are tools or instruments that are used to weigh or measure the amount of a commodity that is part of a commercial transaction. So these devices are tested for accuracy and correctness. So when we refer to accuracy, we're talking about the amount of the commodity that is weighed or measured, which is going to be purchased based on that weight or measure. And when we talk about correctness, we're talking about the device itself, making sure that it's suitable to measure that type of a commodity. And when we're looking at correctness, we're looking at the device and verifying that it meets legal standards to measure that type of commodity in a commercial transaction. Weighing devices are primarily a variety of scales. So our staff goes out and they test a variety of scales to make sure that they're accurate. And so this could be, when you go to the cash register and you have a pound of bananas, we make sure that you are, in fact, getting a pound of bananas for the price that the store is charging you, okay? And then for measuring devices, they measure an amount of a commodity. So, for example, if you go to a gas station, as you can see in the photo on the right side of the slide there, we have a staff member that's testing a retail motor fuel gas pump to verify that it's delivering the accurate amount of gas that someone would purchase at that gas pump. Next slide, please. We also inspect commercial measuring devices. Measuring devices are devices that measure things like liquids and gases and also electricity, like at your electrical vehicle charging station if you have an electric vehicle. Last year, the Weights and Measures program inspected over 22,000 measuring devices. And I wanted to note that our measuring devices and our weighing devices, some of them are inspected on different inspection frequencies, while most of them are annual. They're on an annual inspection frequency. Our sub-meter testing program is on a 10-year inspection frequency, and electric vehicle charging stations are on a 2-year inspection frequency. So I want to note the picture in the slide. That is actually our vapor lab, a picture of our vapor lab, and that is where we test vapor meters. Next slide, please. Our point of sale system program, which is the one I think most citizens are familiar with, the one that I talked about earlier about price scanners. We verify that when you go to the store and you see an advertised price on a shelf or on a commodity, that when you go to the cash register or to the point of sale system where that is scanned, that you are receiving the correct price, which is the lowest advertised price. We inspect price verification locations that are registered with our county, and we inspect them on a biannual basis. And if we find any overcharges or things that are not correct in our inspections, we make sure that the price is corrected immediately, either on the display sign for the price, or we go to the point of sale system and verify that it's updated in the point of sale system so the correct price rings up. And we also follow up within a 6-month period to verify that compliance is being maintained at that location. Next slide. In addition to weighing and measuring devices and point of sale systems, we have other programs that we also do consumer protection audits in. First of all is our petroleum products program. In this program, we verify that petroleum products meet minimum quality standards. And we also verify that the labeling and advertising of prices and the items or the petroleum products being sold are accurate and that they are legible to customers. Our Weighmaster program verifies that licensed weighmasters issue certificates according to their licensing requirements. And we perform audits to make sure that these certificates are being issued properly. So when a weighmaster issues a certificate, it's a certificate of a weight or measure of a commodity that is being certified on a certificate. And that certificate serves as a basis for a commercial transaction, which someone will be charged for. Our package inspection program involves our staff checking packages, commercial packages, and the display on those packages and making sure that the amount, whether it's a weight, measure, or count, that it says that's in that package, like say your box of Cheerios, if your box of Cheerios has 28 ounces of Cheerios in there, we make sure that it has 28 ounces. So we're making sure that customers are getting the amount that is displayed on that package. So we go out and we do quantity control audits to make sure that packages are labeled properly. We also have our registered service agent program. Registered service agents are licensed by the state, and they're responsible for placing into service weighing and measuring devices that are newly installed or that have been repaired. Our department receives placed in service reports for these devices, and once we receive those, we go and follow up to make sure that they are operating properly. Next slide, please. Our weights and measures program also responds to all complaints. We respond to all of them within 1 to 2 business days. Complaints can be for a variety of things. Most often it's overcharges, an overcharge at the store or at the gas pump. Sometimes customers will complain that they didn't receive the amount of gas that they were charged for. So we go and check the device for accuracy. And it could be even something involving a business not honoring a coupon for a discount when you purchase something. In fiscal year 2024-25, the Weights and Measures Division received 251 complaints, and we followed up on all of them. Next slide, please. What's new in Weights and Measures is electric vehicle charging stations. With the amount of electric vehicles that are increasing on the roads, there's a higher demand for energy supply to charge these vehicles. In response to that, our Weights and Measures program is looking to purchase test standards so that we can perform EVSE, or electric vehicle charging station testing on the frequency that is required by law. So the department has been approved to purchase 2 test units, one for slow charging units, which are referred to as AC testing, or AC charging units, and another testing standard for DC, which is for the fast chargers, that you can charge a lot quicker when you go to charge your electric vehicle. Assembly Bill 2037 also is affecting the amount of charging stations that we need to test in the future. Previously, before this Assembly Bill was approved, our division and Weights and Measures in general in the state was not able to test electric vehicle charging stations that were owned by the public or public municipalities. So beginning January 1st, 2026, we anticipate 1,000 more EV chargers that are going to need to be tested. And having this equipment will help us accomplish this. We did do some EV charging testing, and we found that we had a 95% compliance rate, which is really good. We borrowed equipment from the California Department of Food and Agriculture to do this testing, which was great because it really helped us to train our staff and to know what it's going to take to be able to accomplish getting all of these electric vehicle charging stations tested. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, that concludes our presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, and welcome aboard. Thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. We can get a public comment. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on this item?
We have no request to speak.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Arenas, do you have any questions or comments on this item?
Yes, first of all, I just want to thank you for the presentation. Can you tell me again how many complaints have you received from folks about the over? I think it was the misprice. Is it 900? Did I hear right?
Oh, no, it was I believe it was 251 complaints.
200. See, I got it really wrong. There is a microphone back there, and I was making some more tea. But okay, and is there a particular store that does it more often, or in certain areas that it happens more often? Did you notice trends, I guess, is what I'm trying to figure out.
I'd like to.
If I could, I could add some of that, Vice Chair.
Hi,
So
Edna.
some of the efforts that we're doing to revamp operations in all things SEPA is to come up with a GIS map so that we have a visual aid to see what areas we need to focus on and mirror that with density within the population. One of our goals is also to do more of an effort to go out to our residents who English is not our speaking language, so they know when these things happen, they feel confident that they can call us and we will follow up. A lot of the efforts that we're doing are with a strategic approach to ensure that the community knows who to contact. If we go back to some of our efforts, we redid the seal for Weights and Measures to include the county seal, so the community recognizes that those services are being provided by the county and not by the state. So we're doing a lot of efforts. One of the things that we hope to do next year is to revamp our price verification ordinance sticker that is approved by the board. It is yellow, it is antiquated with language, we are hoping to make it to the point, straight, and informative, so folks, when they see it, they recognize that is a county providing protection and ensuring fairness in the market with other small businesses that may not be able to compete with larger businesses as well.
Right, like a grade A kind of, now we know what that is, or, and so that people can actually expect a certain level of quality assurance there. I like that. Hopefully, I don't know, you choose a wonderful color. Yellow is still good, is a good color, but you decide. I think the most important thing that people, with the branding, it tells you, you can kind of be rest assured, right? You're walking in, it's been kind of verified. And so I'm looking forward to seeing if even, though you don't have the GIS platform just yet, if you could look at the trends and figure out, is there a particular area that is more prone to doing this kind of, if the complaints are coming from a certain part of our county? But the problem with that is that complaint-based issues typically fall, we see this always in areas that are more resourced, right? And so that may not necessarily reflect where there's more, maybe it's just underreporting in terms of complaints, and that we need to support other areas better, and so that they can move forward with a complaint. And I don't know, a QR code seems to be doing wonders everywhere, right? Where you just do something super, super duper quick. Somebody can, as soon as they walk out, and realize that they have, been bamboozled in some way, that they can use a really quick process to get that going, and in the language that they speak, right? I think that's really important. So I look forward to the next iteration of, what you're going to come up with, knowing what we know, right? And then I think organizing that information in a way that makes sense to you, and then to consumers, in terms of solutions, right? So I look forward to seeing what that second phase is. So now we know what the complaints are, more or less. Now let's try to figure out, what do we do? And it sounds like you're already thinking about, a sticker, updating an antiquated sticker as part of the process. I think for me, I'd love to know if my district is getting impacted, right, ultimately. And then giving heads up to people to ensure that, hey, when you walk into certain, and I don't mean to target certain areas or certain stores, but certainly if there's folks that are complaining a little bit more, I don't know how you let folks know, hey, make sure that when you go to X and Y and Z, that you check your receipt, because they've had 550, although I know you said 200 and something, right? But they've had 550 complaints. Some level of kind of heads up, because I feel like that responsibility falls on us if we know that there is one store or chain that is more prone to a certain level of complaints. Then I think it's our responsibility to tell consumers, hey, be careful. It doesn't mean that they're going to do it, but it means that they're more prone to it, right?
We appreciate the feedback, and we'll put that in place, Supervisor. Thank you.
Thank you. And those are my questions.
Thank you. I just had a couple of comments. First, thank you for the presentation. It is gratifying to know that your work ensures that all county residents can shop with confidence. So I think that is very important, and appreciate the work. I was really interested in the EV part, as now we're a fully EV household. But I was wondering if you have any data about the rate of overcharges from the testing that you've done. Could you turn your mic on, please?
Is it on?
There we go.
Hi. We do have limited data on the EV chargers. We borrowed the state testing standards about 3-4 weeks this year, and did some testing, and we found that they were compliant within 95% of the chargers did test accurate and within tolerance. The 5% that failed, we only had like one that was charging more. The others are probably the signage on the device itself or undercharge. So it wasn't a big issue. Those chargers that are being installed that we're testing has been approved through the state of California, called a type approval. They go through some testing before they are allowed to be used commercially. We call that type approval. And our meeting tolerance is pretty good at 95%.
Great.
And if I could add to the chair, that's a great question. Some of the efforts that we are doing, it's a pilot program. We started last year with borrowing equipment from the state because we don't have our own. But thank you to the board's leadership, there was an authorization to buy equipment, so we're looking at that equipment. As we shift from gasoline vehicles to EV, there are more EV stations being put online. Those individuals register with us, so we know where they're at. And we also notice a trend that there is more demand for DC charging, which is the fast charging.
Very
so
much.
one of our plans and our strategic approach is to, when we buy these devices, that they can test the higher charging items. The item that we borrowed from the state could only do what we call the AC charging, which is the slow trickle charge. So as when we receive our devices, we'll deploy those to ensure that there is fairness in the market and there is protection for EV drivers in the same manner that gasoline drivers receive that protection.
That's great, yes. I think there was a 40% increase in EV purchases this past year, and I know that we're the highest of all the Bay Area counties, so definitely an increase in EV purchasing, and then, of course, the need for EV charging stations. I totally agree with you. We need more DC chargers than the slower ones. I noticed that we are projecting that this program will provide about $170,000 in additional revenue. Is that, are we charging for the testing? Is that where the revenue comes from? Or?
We are not charging for testing itself. We do have a registration fee, as all devices.
Okay.
So as part of those efforts, there was a change in legislation that allowed for us to charge, have a fee for registration similar to other measured devices that are across the county.
Okay, great. And then just my interest is that I know we'll get updates, but given the increase of EV purchasers and the need for more charging stations and the installation of them, I'm very interested in tracking our ability to test them on a timely manner as more and more come online. And I trust you'll come back to us if there's need for more equipment or whatnot to be able to keep up with, hopefully, the increase in demand.
Will do, Chair. This is our first efforts of doing and we appreciate the opportunity to highlight some of the things that our team is doing, and we'll ensure we'll have EV stats as part of our presentation for next year.
Great, thank you so much. With that, may I get a motion to receive the report?
Absolutely. Motion to approve, to receive the report.
Thank you, and I'll second that. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Vice Chairperson Arenas
Yes.
and Chairperson Abacoga.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries.
Thank you, everyone. We'll go on to item 7, which is to receive a report from the Consumer and Environmental Protection Agency relating to the fiscal year 2024-25 University of California Cooperative Extension Program accomplishments in Santa Clara County. And we have back to Mr.
It is
Edgar?
back to
Yes.
SEPA. Thank you again. So this is our annual report on UCC activities. Presenting today is our County UCC Director, Sheila Berry. Joining her is Priscilla Yini, our Ag Commissioner and Weights and Measures Sealer, and our SEPA, Admin Services Manager, SEPA, Bu Tai.
Good morning again, Bu Tai, Administrative Service Manager. Before I pass the presentation over to Dr. Berry, I wanted to just note that there was a correction needed to be done on the legislative file. UCCE receives 14% of the county funding to support their service and programs. So with that, I pass the presentation over to Dr. Berry.
Thank you. And good morning, Chair Abby Koka and Vice Chair Arenas. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you today about UC Cooperative Extension's work in Santa Clara County. I really appreciate that we are able to share our annual report and how our partnership with the county continues to deliver tremendous value to our community. For over the past 6 decades, Cooperative Extension has been serving the people of Santa Clara County. And so since the 1960s, we've had a partnership and an MOU with the county to implement the University of California's land grant mission, which is to extend research-based knowledge directly to California communities. We're also very pleased to be housed with the county's Consumer and Environmental Protection Agency and work alongside the Ag Commissioner's Office. This partnership allows us to leverage both university, research, and local government connections to maximize our impact. Our mission is really clear. We extend the University of California research-based knowledge to address community needs in agriculture and natural resources, youth development, and community nutrition and health. The breadth of our program, I think, really reflects the diverse needs of Santa Clara County. Our programs cover everything from urban agriculture to wildfire mitigation. Our Master Gardeners, a UC Environmental Stewards program, and 4-H youth development programs engage hundreds of volunteers. We provide organic waste management education, manage human-wildlife interactions, conduct urban pest management, and deliver both 4-H and community nutrition programs. Each program leverages the power of the entire UC system, connecting our community to the world-class research of UC campuses and also our experiment stations. Let me share with you the remarkable return on investment that this partnership provides. Our total program support, and we run a little behind, so in reporting these, is for 2023 to 2024 was $6.6 million. And the county's investment, both direct and indirect support, represented 14% of that total. The remaining 86% comes from UC support, which is 26% coming from advisors-generated grants, or from UC, and then 58%, coming from advisor-generated grants, and another 2% from donations and so forth. This means that every county dollar leverages more than 6 additional dollars in funding, which is an extraordinary multiplier effect that brings millions of dollars to our community. I would like to highlight, some of the accomplishments this past year that have been provided by our 11 academics and staff in Santa Clara County. And I'm going to start with how we support both agriculture and mitigating climate change. Our small farm program, which is located primarily in South County and runs out of the Highland office, sustains the county's agricultural production through multilingual outreach. Our small farm team conducted pesticide training, for example, in Chinese and provided workshops on food safety in English, in Spanish, and Chinese. With technical assistance, 28 farmers, including 18 socially disadvantaged small-scale farmers, were able to submit applications to the county's funded Agriculture Resilience Incentive Grant Program, and they requested over $400,000 in funding. Our Ag Liaison Program is responsible for supporting the implementation of the county's Santa Clara Valley Agricultural Plan, and recently acquired over $100,000 for an agriculture awareness campaign, which has included the development of a South Santa Clara County Farm Trails agritourism map. We've also worked with the county to renew the livestock pass This is so ranchers can have access to their properties to take care of animals in the case of a catastrophic wildfire. And we've provided crucial grower assistance on permitting and policy issues, including currently input into the county's rural zoning update. Our urban and agricultural food systems program strengthens local food systems through monthly meetings of the Santa Clara County Food Systems Alliance, the South Bay and the South Bay Food Justice Collaborative. We've held food hub events, developed educational materials highlighting the county's urban agriculture, also providing organic farming webinars, and evaluated the Public Health Department's Neighborhoods Food Resiliency Project. And with me today in the audience is Lucy Diekman. She's our Urban Ag and Food Systems Advisor. We're cycling nutrients back into the working landscape through research on composting and food waste recovery. And our work includes investigating dehydrated food waste for planting applications and researching locally generated biochar as a soil amendment. We provide compost application, like 40 workshops a year throughout the county. Our environmental horticulture program improves community landscapes. We train local nurseries on water efficiency and support plant selection for urban greening, conducting research also on eucalyptus responses to fire management, fuel management treatments. A newer program we have in our county is our forest stewardship program. We're addressing challenges in wildland forest systems by directing a regional forest stewardship monitoring and research network in the Santa Cruz Mountains. We've partnered with NASA to map coast redwood forest recovery from high-severity wildfire and conducting research on prescribed fire effects. And this year we also hosted an invasive shot-hole borer science and strategy meeting. With over 40% of Santa Clara County being grazing land, our livestock program sustains working landscapes for open space, recreation, wildlife habitat, and livestock production. We provide outreach on rangeland restoration and ground squirrel management and conduct some groundbreaking research on reducing methane emissions from cattle using seaweed supplements. Our wildfire mitigation efforts include pre- and post-fire monitoring research at Mount Madonna and Henrico State Park. We've provided extension and outreach through pile burn classes, prescribed training exchanges, and presentations at wildfire town halls, including one co-hosted by Assemblymember Gail Polrina and San Jose City Council member George Casey. Another area of our focus is on promoting youth development. As the largest youth development program in the U.S., our 4-H youth development program engages both youth and adults in meaningful learning and leadership programs. We have enrolled nearly 3,000 youth in school programs, serve Latinx youth through a 5-day Nature's Explore Day camp, where Latinx teens are trained to be the camp counselors. Our program has over 200 adult volunteers that have contributed 22,000 hours valued at nearly $1 million in time. We collaborate with 19 public and private partners, which is necessary because in order to make this program work, we have just 2 staff members. Another area of our focus is on community well-being. And our Master Gardener program really exemplifies community engagement. This past year, 49 Master Gardeners completed our 20-week training program. We have over 300 certified Master Gardeners, and they have donated over 35,000 hours in service, valued at nearly $1.5 million to our community. They educate residents through low-cost or free classes and spend thousands of hours answering questions on things like conserving water, what to plant, how to, and how to garden. They maintain 8 demonstration gardens in the county, including 4 fruit tree orchards, and also donate thousands of pounds of produce to our local food pantries. We also work to reduce conflict between wildlife and community members through a Bay Area carnivore livestock interaction project where we are testing non-lethal deterrence. We provide education on coyote biology, conflict prevention, and assist with ground squirrel management at county facilities, including the correctional facilities, San Martin Airport, and Marshall Cottle Park. Our urban pest management program trains over 500 professionals on pest biology, IPM strategies, and pesticide safety. We conduct research on bed bugs, termites, and other urban pests while creating educational videos. Notably, we helped the County Office of Sustainability identify and resolve a serious cockroach issue at the historic O'Connor Hospital. And I would also like to share that we are in the process of expanding our urban integrated pest program to include vertebrate pest, as we are currently in search of a commensal rodent advisor to provide that service. Our CalFresh Healthy Living program has provided education to over 2,000 youth and adults and implements policy systems changes at 40 sites in the county, reaching over 8,000 county residents. And unfortunately, this program going forward will have a much limited offering with the loss of federal funding to the SNAP Ed education, but we will work to continue some of our efforts through our other programs. And finally, I wanted to share with you our efforts at Marshall Cottle Park. Our program there really demonstrates the integration of all our work. The Master Gardener parcel reached over 3,000 visitors at educational events, with over 900 youth participating in field trips to the park. Our Sunset Ranch at Marshall Cottle Park provides hands-on learning experience with livestock, gardening, and composting. And our CalFresh Healthy Living was bringing second grade classes to learn about plant life, pollinators, and health benefits of fresh vegetables. I want to end by really thanking you for supporting this exceptional partnership that we have in Santa Clara County. For over 60 years, we are delivering research-based solutions to our community. Our program generates millions in external funding, engages thousands of volunteers, and serves tens of thousands of residents annually. And more importantly, we are needs-based and address the critical challenges of our time, from climate change to youth security, to food security, to youth development and community health, all while providing a really extraordinary return on the county's investment. And thank you for your continued support.
Thank you very much for the comprehensive report. Do we have any public comment on this item?
We have no request to speak.
Thank you. Any questions or comments, Supervisor Arenas?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the presentation and for all the work that you're doing with our community. And I think I heard you say that you work with one of the council members for, I think, a wildlife town hall. That's amazing. I'm guessing a lot of wild pigs were maybe central to those conversations.
I'm not sure at that one, but that has been an issue in the past. I think the most current issue has been more around the coyotes.
Great. Well, you know what? I think it would be a wonderful opportunity for the supervisors to also learn a little more about the kinds of town halls that you can have with us. I know you have a very rural areas as well. I mean, maybe not as much as South County rural with agriculture, but certainly your issues up in the hillsides for those cities that are hillside bound. So I think that's an exciting opportunity for us to figure out some partnerships. I would love to work with you on that. I also was thinking about Elmwood, and they were talking about their squirrel problem. Since you talked about the cockroach problem over at O'Connor, which I didn't know anything about, but yeah, that is a problem if the hospital has
Yeah, I believe at
cockroaches.
Elmwood, we have our wildlife human interaction advisor has provided some consultation there. At one of the correctional facilities, I believe it may be Elmwood. We also do have a gardening program at Elmwood that I know has had to deal with the ground squirrels as well. So I think that is one we can make sure we continue to engage.
Yeah, that would be great. From what I hear, it is not solved. But, you know, it's hard when they have so much acreage out there, and some of it is not. The squirrels seem to be very friendly, you know, so that's probably part of the problem, right? That people are probably being friendly with them.
Well, and frankly, we've lost some of our tools that we have used in the past, so it's a little, it becomes more challenging.
Oh, when you say lost, do you mean?
Well, lost meaning the regulations have make it more difficult to either use certain tools or they're just not even available, particularly some of the rodenticides.
Oh, got it. Okay.
But even some of the methods in which you might trap them or manage them are also.
Well, you are research-based, so I'm guessing you have the latest of the latest, and hopefully you can help them maybe figure that piece out. I still can't, I'm not able to eat my blackberries in my own backyard. Almonds, forget about it. I just, they eat all of them. I get very few, like a handful. So some of us have given up, but not everybody, so I'm glad you're there for that. I had a question about, I think it was last year, in last year's report, you had noticed, or you provided technical assistance for farmers, or it was in this report, excuse me. And I think it was educational workshops for our farmers, and there was a lot of that, or a lot of these farmers that received that, and it was around food safety workshops and just a lot of other really good things. But I'm wondering if you can share with us in a general trend what you noticed that the technical assistant was for farmers. I know earlier in the year, farmers were talking a lot about tariffs and the concerns around that, and some for those who actually connected with some of the trucking, it was, you know, not being allowed to enter into Canada or into Mexico. But I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about the technical assistance that you provided. What kind of surfaced to the top, maybe top 3 things that you noticed, if you could put them in categories?
If
What
I
would
may,
they
through
be?
the chair, Vice Chair, and as some of those efforts were done within SEPA in the ag division, doing training to actual ag workers on heat illnesses, on pesticide utilization. We did those in Spanish and in Chinese to ensure that all of our ag workers are supported, and also through the efforts of our interim ag commissioner, constant communication with our farmers and our farm producers on the potential impacts of tariffs that we were dealing on with our current administration that's been happening this whole year.
Wonderful, because last year I think you did mention that you were working more on work conditions for the farm workers, and that was one of the things I was going to ask you about. Is like, so what was the follow-up? You know, we learned this from the previous report, and so what I hear you saying is that you provided workshops to farm workers regarding overheating. Did you include anything about their rights, or you know, I know that we've had a lot of focus on that throughout this year. Is that something that was included?
Yeah,
or?
so last year, as it relates to our ag farm worker housing survey, we did invite different offices within Santa Clara County that provide such type services. Also, we had the U.S. Department of Labor provide a presentation in Spanish, ensuring that everybody knows their rights on hours, hourly wages, your paychecks. To my knowledge, I believe there was about 10 different entities providing services, from how to get behavioral health, how to get signed up for social services benefits, how to know your employment rights, and also giving them our information, so if there's any follow-up, they can contact us.
Wonderful. And when is the results of the survey coming to us?
It is an ongoing thing. We're working on getting more results right now. I'm happy to share. That'll be probably another update. We've hit 10%. We've received 10% results of our population, which is pretty high, given some of the circumstances we are facing with our current administration.
Yeah. Well, you know what I'd like to offer is an opportunity for us to work together on this, because we have stakeholders out there that already have existing relationships with folks, and I wonder if maybe we can leverage that, and that way you can get to the survey or go through the survey a little bit easier. So offline, I'd love to follow up with you, Edgar, and figure that piece out, and also learn about what in real time, learn about what the farm workers are talking about and what they want, so that we can, you know, through our relationships in our district, figure out how we can in real time respond to that, as well as if there are medical issues that are happening, that we could, you know, reshift how our mobile service, our healthcare mobile service is responding, or where they're going. I just want to be able to connect what you learned from the surveys with the current services that we're providing in the moment, because I think that's where, you know, that although I'm going to appreciate in the end all of the survey results, I think we can shift in the moment to figure out what do people actually need, right? And so I appreciate that. Oh, and then the last piece was just, if, you know, if the farmers are asking for some technical assistance, I know you mentioned the tariffs, so we talked a little bit about the tariffs, but I'm sure that wasn't the only topic. I wonder how we are tracking long-term outcomes, and so did we you know, cover the, did we check it off? Did we respond in a way? And, you know, I appreciate you saying you have research-based strategies, and I guess what I'm wondering is, are those strategies responding to the issue that is at hand with the farmers? And can we or do we check in with the farmers at some point to figure out, you know what, check, that particular strategy worked with the farmers or the farm workers, and so we know that works. Let's continue to use it. Let's recognize it first and understand that that's something that works, and then let's integrate it into our toolbox because it works. And so I guess I'm trying to figure out, how do you measure those outcomes and then figure out that the strategies that you're utilizing are the ones that are most effective?
I could say that is part of our extension program, is to do evaluation and look both for the short term, you know, what did they learn from the information that we provided, and what practices will they implement. And 3 areas where we specifically have been doing a lot of technical assistance in regards to our small farm program would have to do with pest management, irrigation, and food safety. And so in that, some of that is in response to new regulations that they have to do things differently. And so we bring to them is what are some of the best practices, and then provide technical support in implementing them. And we do, as I said, do survey. Generally, our method for evaluating, how effective this has been is through survey and also through observation. And we'll come back after, initially maybe only a few months after, and see that practices are being implemented. But then also, look occasionally through longer-term surveying, understand if practices continue to be the appropriate practice, and if they're effective.
Part of learning some of that from you and in your evaluations is, first of all, wonderful. And then second, we can share this information to other, to other districts and figure out how we can create baselines around the work that you're doing. If we figure out that your evaluation process has determined that something works, right?
Right.
I guess when does that typically happen? Is that just kind of carries over from one year to the next, or?
Well, we do, actually locally and statewide develop a sort of impact type report where often those things are reported. I think our challenge, and I think you can see even from what we presented today, is we just have such breadth of subject matter. So it's hard to, sort of provide a lot of detail on any one particular area. So things get a little bit overwashed, where we actually have a lot more detail than we are presenting. So.
Well, that's an interesting point that you bring up, and I don't know if in this committee or at your commissioner level that you help determine, as things are going to get really tough for folks, that you help determine what are some of the things that are going to be the most useful and supportive for the communities in projecting the needs of the folks based on some of the work that you've already done, so that way your work is more concise and you can embrace it in a way that doesn't feel overwhelming, but also produces hopefully some evaluation and some best practices that people can actually carry out in all, throughout our cities and our counties. And so anyways, this is a suggestion in terms of honing in on some very specific areas, right?
Right, thank you.
You're welcome. And I'll make a motion to approve the report, accept the report.
Thank you. I'll second the motion, and just want to offer my thanks. It's really interesting to hear the breadth of different topics that you cover in your programs, and I was particularly interested in hearing about the wildfire, fire mitigation and management. That is a topic, a hot topic, no pun intended, in my district. I believe we'll be receiving in the next few months the wildfire detection sensors pilot program update, so I look forward to that. And definitely concerned about the CalFresh Healthy Living Program, and I know that we're just going to be experiencing a lot of changes and challenges, but I do appreciate that the effort will continue with some of the other programs, so thank you for that. With that, could I get a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Vice Chairperson Arenas?
Yes.
And Chairperson Abacoga?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries.
Thank you so much. We'll go on to item 8, which is a verbal report from the county exec's office relating to agricultural worker housing. Is that you? Was that Gallegos?
Good afternoon, Sylvia Gallegos. I'll take a moment to expand on Mr. Nolasco's brief comments with respect to the survey. As he noted, we're continuing to seek out survey input, and we are interested in presenting when we get a larger count. Thus far, we've collected around 430 surveys of farm workers, and it's been very labor intensive. We have a new ag commissioner, as you were introduced today, and one of her goals is to make herself known to our farm workers and also our farmers. And we hope that through her efforts and we have made some connections with specific farmers that are asking us to come in at a certain season, provide hard copy surveys rather than through a digital means. And so we're trying to make those arrangements. And at the appropriate time when we think we have a good number that's representative and reflects what we are indicating is perhaps changing needs as a result of the federal administration, we'll make that presentation. No surprise in terms of our discussions with actual farmers that impediments to ag worker housing include lack of experience, which is not surprising. A lack of financing was another highly rated obstacle. And then thirdly, their sense of the regulatory process. And that's something that we can help them with. In terms of farm workers, to date, what we've learned is that there is a high need for assistance for applications, whether it's medical assistance, educational services, and other forms of aid. But we will come back. I'll consult with the director about when we think is a time on Hewlett that we can make a presentation on the survey. We are also continuing work. You'll recall that at the last Hewlett meeting, we presented preliminary recommendations on I call it the permit transformation process that supports all forms of development. You know as supervisors that there generally is, and this is not uncommon with planning departments, frustration with the time it takes to process applications. I always want to emphasize that in the rural areas, it will always be more difficult and time-consuming given the specific constraints on parcels in the rural areas. We were planning to come back in November, but because of the committee timing, one of our consultants is having a medical procedure, so we'll return in December, but we will, with your concurrence, schedule individual meetings to review the draft findings before they are made final in a report. So we'll make sure and schedule those. In addition, in October, we're going to seek delegation of authority for the federal earmark for the housing rehab and electrification project. We need delegated authority to actually submit the application. As you know, you're notified that you're going to receive an award, but there's actually an federal administrative process that you need to undertake. So you'll see that at the October 21st board meeting, the request for that delegation of authority to apply. With that, and in the interest of time, I'll conclude the report.
Thank you. Any public comment on this item?
No request to speak.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments, Supervisor?
No, thank you.
Thank you. And I'm good too. So let's just move on to item 9. And these are the reports from the different committees. Let's start from the other end today with the Office of Supportive Housing.
Good morning, KJ Kaminsky, Director for the Office of Supportive Housing. I want to share, we had the opportunity to celebrate several events recently, including the groundbreaking at Distal Circle, our first 100% affordable housing development in Los Altos in late August. And then just over the last couple of weeks, we celebrated the groundbreaking at 525 North Capitol. The grand opening of Alum Rock multifamily housing on September 12th that has 60 new affordable apartments in East San Jose. And then just yesterday, we celebrated the grand opening of Bellarmino Place and Alvarado Park, which adds over 200 units of affordable housing. And that was in partnership with the Housing Authority. And then upcoming, we have in October, the Parkmore Community Apartments and the Hub grand opening that we're very excited about. I also just want to share that over the weekend, the California legislature voted to reauthorize cap and trade, which included really valuable affordable housing and sustainable communities, ASIC funding, which we here locally have been very successful in leveraging for our projects. So we were very pleased to see that. And then lastly, our Continuum of Care team is very busy with community engagement around our community plan to end homelessness, and just wanted to share that they've been meeting directly with city staff, as well as folks with lived experience, our community partners, but are convening a cities working group right now as well, and so we'll have more to share in the coming months on that, but that engagement is well underway.
Great.
End of report.
Great, thank you. Any questions, Supervisor? No. All right, we'll move on to SIPA.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Abby Koga, Vice Chair Arenas, Edgar Nolasco, your agency director for SIPA. My report will be brief. We recently had a Clear the Shelters event at Animal Services Center, which was a huge success. We had 59 pets adopted, and much appreciation to our Vice Chair Arenas for joining us and doing interviews in Spanish with Telemundo, and also a very much heartfelt thank you to Telemundo for generously sponsoring the event. As part of the Clear the Shelters, Telemundo paid all adoption fees, thus the adoptions being free for our community members that gained a new family member. Also in Animal Services, in August, we had the pleasure of welcoming Supervisor Abby Koga to her first tour of the Animal Services Center. It was an honor to be able to tour and showcase the great, amazing services that our team does at Animal Services. And we're very appreciative and grateful of the continued support to Animal Services. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Any questions, Supervisor Arenas? No, just thank you. Thank you for the tour, and thank you for accommodating my staff and our interns. It was really wonderful to see the beautiful facilities and all the work that you do there. And we'll go on to Parks and Rec, and I don't know, I can't remember, is this your first meeting, or did we do that last one?
I've been here before.
Okay.
Happy to be here.
Well, welcome back.
Good afternoon, Todd Lofgren, Director, Parks and Recreation. Pleased to share an update on our natural resource management efforts to prevent catastrophic wildfires. We have planned prescribed burns for the week of October 13th for Calero and Grant Park units, and also October 23rd in partnership with Santa Clara County Fire and San Jose Fire Departments for Anderson. It's important to note that all of these prescribed burns are subject to weather conditions prior to ignition. I'm also pleased to share the construction has started at Sanborn. We expect this project to be completed in spring of 2026. Improvements include new, safe, accessible pedestrian access throughout the park's core, new hydration stations, accessible picnic areas, ramps, group picnic areas, interpretive signage, and irrigation improvements. So we're excited to have that project going. And finally, more than ever, we're committed to bringing our community together, and so we've got some exciting community events coming up in October. Day on the Bay is Saturday, October 4th from 10 to 3 p.m. The department's excited to co-sponsor this event with Supervisor Lee to offer the celebration of connection between community, personal well-being, and supporting a sustainable planet. And then we have the Fall Festival, we're excited, which is on October 11th at 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Supervisor Arenas is a co-sponsor for this event. It will be a celebration of Marshall Cottle's 10th anniversary, as well as providing an opportunity for the community to gather around local arts, crafts, children activities, live music, food, free pumpkins while they last.
Nice.
And we look forward to seeing everyone in the parks. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, we'll move on to roads.
Thank you very much. Harry Freitas, Roads and Airports Director. I'll keep it brief considering the time. I wanted just to let everybody know that we're completing our annual street resurfacing efforts this year. We've completed between 60 and 70 miles of roads that have been resurfaced. So we're celebrating that as a department with our road maintenance workers who've worked through the heat of the summer. And then also just a reminder that we'll have our first Open Streets event sponsored by Supervisor Arenas' office. It's called Country Roads, Open Streets in San Martin this weekend. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any questions? All right, planning.
Thank you. Jacqueline Anciano, Director of Planning and Development. I'm pleased to announce that we are closing the gap on our 35% vacancy rate for our planning division. We will be interviewing planners that will be joining our team, prospective team members. And also we have made and are moving forward to make some changes for efficiencies so that we're serving our residents in more excellent manner. We will be moving into appointment only beginning September 29th, September 29th. And so that will take away from that constant wait for our planning intake and servicing the public. And we'll be making more and more improvements in our services as we're moving forward. This concludes planning staff.
Thank you. Any questions? No? Thank you for the reports. Are there any public comment on any of the reports?
No request to speak.
All right, thank you. I will close that item then. And I believe we are concluding. So I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you very much. The next regular meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, October 28th, 2025 at 2 p.m. in the Board of Supervisors chambers. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon.